Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, Mr. Tom Little. How are you, sir?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Good. Tom is here. We just thought we'd have a quick 20-minute chat about Leeds United versus Liverpool, Premier League tonight at Elland Road, because I think they're one of only two teams that have beaten you at your ground, right, this year?
Yep. Them and Real Madrid.
Them and Real Madrid. Okay, well, not bad company because Leeds were once a giant of Europe. So, Tom, I just wanted to just have a quick chat with you really about, look, what's happening at Liverpool? What are your thoughts on tonight's game? We'll get into all of that. But in general, sum up for me this season, because last year was within a whisker of a quadruple. This year's just been, for your
Shambles.
standards, yeah. So what has happened? Where's it all gone wrong?
The problems were there at the back end of last season. I'll say that much. These things that we've seen this season. The conceding early on, getting overrun defensively. All that was there at the back end of last season. But because we had a better mentality, because we'd won a trophy already, we were just getting ourselves through them games. This year, that mentality weren't there.
Yep.
And as such, those games where we've conceded first and our defence has been, put under loads of pressure, we just haven't been able to see through. We've held on to the core of this team for way too long. Last summer gone was the one where we should have sold. But this club has an issue with sentimentality at times. So we decided to hold on to them for one more season, and that's killed us off massively because the midfield isn't good enough, which in turn puts the defence under more pressure, and in turn means the attack don't get the ball as much. Right. There's been some bright sparks. I've enjoyed watching Darwin Núñez this year. Seeing some of the youngsters come through and get a lot of game time, that's positive to see. Maybe they can have an impact next year. But in terms of this year, there was a hope that, as we've done in the past, when we get close and don't get it over the line, the next year we normally go and get it done. So with the Champions League, we've done it against Hughes after losing out to Real Madrid. But that same year we missed out on the title by a point. The next year we went and walked it. So there was a belief that, maybe we can do something like that again. Just, we missed out on them. Maybe we can go and get over the line with one of them this year. But the squad just hit its wall. You know that thing where it's like, you get a setback and you either get back up and push on again, or you just sit there and that's it. We got counted out. We're down for the count, and we need a full-on reset now.
So you mentioned there in terms of hitting the wall with certain players. From an outsider's perspective, and from what the media reports and all of the YouTube channels talk about, what gets talked about is your midfield, right? Everyone goes, it's Henderson, it's Milner, and it's Fabinho and Thiago. Is it just the midfield, or is there issues at centre back as well? Are there issues up top? What is it? Is it mainly stemming from that kind of midfield engine room?
I think it's a mixture of the midfield simply not being able to do what this tactic requires of it anymore. Right. So our midfield has to cover so much ground. We run midfielders into the ground because of the system that we play, and as such, you've got to have a little bit less sentimentality in that position and start cutting people loose because you're going to run them out of energy. We haven't done that. We've kept the likes of Milner, we've kept the likes of Henderson, we've kept the likes of Fabinho, and this year you can just see how off the pace they are. Right. And that's what's really pushed through this thing. But I also believe that the tactics, yes, the midfield is an issue, and I understand that. Yeah, Klopp is partly to blame for that. The owners are partly to blame for that. The tactics are on the manager, though, because you have the power to control that. What you have to do, yes, the midfield isn't working, so change it up. Go for a tactic that, maybe limits the weaknesses, plays to your strengths, gets your results. And the worst part is he's done that a couple of times this year. He'd done it. Remember when we played Hughes and we beat you 2-1? That was a change of tactic. We went to a diamond in midfield with Núñez and Savva up top. We'd done that for about 4 or 5 games and won them all. And then after the World Cup, we changed back. Yeah, and then even that run we had a little bit earlier on this year in 2023, where we had Everton, Newcastle, United, and someone else, like Wolves. We played a little bit differently then. We had one of our midfielders really pushing into the 10 role, almost in a 4-2-3-1 at times.
Yeah.
And then he reverted back from that. And now we're seeing a 3-2-4-1, like we saw against Arsenal, where Trent moves into the midfield, and then everyone just gets forward and tries to use the attack. And he might stick by it for a couple of games, but then he'll probably change it back. What I need to see is, I really like this 3-2-4-1. I think there's a lot of potential in it because it suits the players that we've got, and it minimises how much running the midfield really has to do in a way, because we don't have to cover here, there, and everywhere. They've just got channels to cover. If he changes it back, I'm just going to sit there and go, what is the point? Because you've identified the problems, you've solved the problems, and then you undo it.
And then you
undo. That's the part that gets me.
Do you think that he keeps going back to, like, one of the things from, again, I can only speak as an outsider, right? Not as a Liverpool fan, but when I look at Liverpool and you go, wow, the kind of plethora of attacking players you've got in your squad. I think, and you'll probably tell me if I'm wrong, but if I look at Salah, Diaz, and Nunez, and then Jota, Gakpo, and Firmino. Do you think this is the problem, that if he does go to what you said, kind of like the two up top, that he feels that there's four of them then not getting a game? Or is it literally just too much tinkering?
I think that he needs to realise that his players can play other roles. So this 3-2-4-1 is what I really want to see us do, and you can fit 4 attackers in that, because the players that you've got, the roles that players end up taking. I mean, even against Real Madrid in the second leg, he played Cody Gakpo at right centre mid. Cody Gakpo would actually be a really good right centre mid in this system, because the right centre mid goes out wide and attacks down the line and puts in good crosses and good creativity. Cody Gakpo got like 12 assists off crosses this season for PSV. But again, we're not using him right in certain ways. Like, he's all right as a false 9. Maybe that's his long-term future. But you've got to use the profiles a little bit differently. And this season's a write-off. This season is a complete write-off. I'll say that right now. We are not getting top 4. Whether it's Europa or Conference, I don't really care, because both of them are B-level competitions. We should go on and win them next year if we win them, but I'm not going to really care for it. But what I need to see now is him playing the system that we're going to play next year. Start getting the players that are going to be here next year, but are here now, used to it. So we're not sitting there in pre-season and watching you try and teach 24 players a new system. Because if what's been said is to be believed, we're going to buy a lot of players this summer, and they're all going to need time to adapt. There'll be a great help if the current crop that are going to be here next year can help ease that transition, because they've played it already. They know how it works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll talk about players coming into Liverpool in a minute. And before we get on to the Leeds game, just looking at the Premier League table here, I mean, obviously, this isn't where you're used to being, down in 8th. Realistically, Tom, and having been on shows with you and spoken to you before, I know that you are a realist rather than somebody who'll still try and convince me that Liverpool can still win the league. Look, you've got what have you got? You've got 9 games of the season left to go. You've got 2 games in hand, most of the clubs above you, including, Villa and Spurs. Realistically, looking at this table now, where are you looking to finish, and who are your biggest dangers?
Look, there's still a minute possibility of top 4. I don't believe it'll happen, but there's certain sections of the fan base that do. So you have to give that consideration. It just required a hell of a lot of luck from certain teams that have been very good all season suddenly dropping off in form. But it is there, so we'll give it a little bit. But I believe we're going to finish about 5th or 6th. I think the biggest set, realistically, the biggest set's Brighton. I really am high on Brighton at the minute. I think they are such a good side. I don't think they've got the credit they deserve. And I think, I know they got unlucky with not beating News because of poor refereeing decisions. When you look at that in a different light and say, let's say they got a draw out of that game, all of a sudden, you're looking at them going, they could sneak in top 4. They could really jump into top 4. They're not that far off, and they've got games in hand on everyone. So Brighton are a real thing. I think Villa as well. Unai Emery's got them in a nice possible way. Tottenham don't really bother me as much. We've got to play use.
Oh, don't worry about Tottenham. No one
doesn't bother me.
Tottenham.
Like we've got to play use at Anfield, so that should be a win. And I just don't think you've got a good enough system to really sustain it. But Villa and Brighton are the ones that worry me most. But I only see one of them beating us out to it. So realistically, I see us finishing 6th.
It's consistency now, though, Tom, isn't it? Because when you're looking at, other than Arsenal and Man City, who have both been very consistent all season, well, more so Arsenal, but now City doing what City do. I could chuck Man U in there as well, because Man U have lost like 2 games in about 35. But the rest of the league, for me, when I look at Tottenham, Villa, Brighton, Liverpool, Brentford, Fulham, Chelsea, no one can seem to string 3 wins together. Do you know what I mean? And those places are interchangeable. Have you got, though, what you haven't had all season, which is the ability now to put 3, 4, 5 runs, 5 wins in a run? Do you think that you've got that capability coming up?
No, I don't. I don't believe the squad has that mentality this season, and I don't believe they're going to pull it out the bag at this point because it's too far gone. So they'll sit there and just go, what's the point in trying to stress out if it's not going to lead to anything in the end? So we might go 2-3 wins, but then there'll be a draw or a loss, and then we're back to stage 1 again. And stuff will get reset, players will be dropped unfairly, and we'll be back in the situation when we're going, why are we doing this? There's just not a lot of confidence I have in this squad, which is a mad thing to say about a team that I've had so much confidence in for the past 5 years.
So with this in mind then, where do you expect to finish? Are we talking Europa? Are we talking Conference League? And as a final part of that question, if you want to get any European football at all, what impact do you think that's going to have on your ability to be able to sign the caliber of players that you need and want to be able to get you back up to the top echelons of the table next season?
I believe we'll finish 6th. I believe we'll get Europa League.
Okay.
But I would prefer to not. I prefer to finish 8th and not get anything because that would sustain a better. It should logically give us a best chance at the title next year.
So like what Yusuf is saying, play 1 game a week,
yeah,
and not have to worry about I suppose the rotation of playing every 3 or 4 days.
Gives you the chance to have a bit of a smaller squad, which is what I think this team might need to do next year if they want to get back to being competitive. Regarding transfers, though, I don't believe it will affect us all that much. I believe that if we go in for players, we have a good enough back catalogue almost to say that one bad year doesn't define us.
Right.
So let's just say we go in for McAllister. I don't think McAllister, when he's looking at between us and United, is going to sit there and go, well, I know he's done it for 4 years, but United just done it last year, so they're in a much better stage. I believe these players will go, Liverpool have a more maybe sustained squad in terms of I've seen them do it for longer. They've got more typically world-class players, this, that, and the other. So I'd hope, but you never know with this transfer market. You never know with this club.
Well, when we talk about, lots of people talk about managers having credit in the bank and players having credit in the bank. If we look at football clubs having credit in the bank, Liverpool are historically and deservedly one of the biggest clubs in world football. And I suppose that's the difference between, say, I use Spurs as an example, but it's silly because even when we get top 4, we don't use it to buy Champions League players. But if you get top 4, you're going to get Champions League players. If you get 8th, I think people will still look at Liverpool and go, that's a big club. They've got Mo Salah. They've got Cody Gakpo. They've got, do you know what I mean? You've got Virgil van Dijk and Alisson. I still think you've got that pull, but who are the kind of, before we go on to the Leeds game, who are those players? Because Bellingham, I'm guessing you must be bored as a Liverpool fan of hearing all the Bellingham talk.
Mate, don't worry. It's going to start again next year when he stays at Dortmund and signs a new contract. And it's like, there's a release clause in there. Liverpool have done all this. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean, because Gravenbach is the one that's today it's come out, hasn't it? On I don't know if it was Romano or the
Sky Sports. Melissa Reddy has just 5 minutes ago confirmed it.
Right, there you go. So you're backing for him, and I think you wanted him before. He went to Bayern Munich, like so many other players that signed for Bayern Munich. They go there, never get a game, and then look to move somewhere else. So is that the caliber you're looking at bringing in now? Him, and you mentioned Alexis McAllister as well.
Ryan Gravenberch would be a fantastic pickup, depending on the role he'd be playing in the squad. I don't want to sign him and have him come in and be a starter, because I don't believe that he is at the level that I expect of our starters for a title challenge. Whereas McAllister, he would come in and start straight away. I'm really high on McAllister. I'm really high on Caicedo. Them sort of players are the ones that we need to be looking at. We have to spend money. We've got ourselves into this mess because we haven't spent money. We're now going to have to spend the money that we should have spent years ago to get ourselves out of it. Ryan Gravenberch would be a really good start. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a player who could fit a system there, but I don't want him to come into this club, be starting week in, week out, have that pressure. I want him to be able to drop in and out at times, rotate with the squad, be a 4th, 5th choice midfielder. And if that is what we progress to, where a player like Ryan Gravenberch is our 4th, 5th choice midfielder, bear in mind it's different with us to our 4th, 5th choice midfielder gets plenty more game time than Bayern Munich's. Like there's no competition there. So I believe that represents a better opportunity, but there are players that I'd have above him, like McAllister, Caicedo.
How much you paying to get McAllister out of Brighton? We've seen how Brighton operate. We've seen that they're not prepared to be bullied and let their players go for. They wanted 80 million for Caicedo, who'd had about a year in the first team, and
Savva gets better. Do you not know what we done in the summer with Caicedo? We were in for him in the summer, and we were umming and ahhing about it, and then it got to deadline day. We signed Arthur, that wonderful signing that's played a grand total of 14 minutes for us. It turns out, with an hour to go on deadline day, we put in a bid for Caicedo, and Brighton looked at us and went, "What are you going to do with an hour to go? What's the point?"
Yeah.
So, and they would have accepted like 55 million, I think it was at the time. Now he's going to cost upwards of 85.
Well, he's just signed a new contract, hasn't he?
Yeah. The thing is, I believe, not to back this, but I believe there's a little thing with McAllister and Caicedo, which was very similar to what we used to do with our players. We'll sign a new contract, let us up your value a bit, and we'll let you go in the summer. Just sign a new contract so we can get a little bit more money for you. That sort of thing. So I believe McAllister will be available for around 60 to 65, and Caicedo for around anywhere from about 70 to 85-ish, depending on the club that comes in for them. And those two would be ridiculously, that's the level that we need to get to.
If you buy those two, does that transform your team immediately?
It's a real good start to transform it, yeah. I think that there's players out there that could do this. What we can't do is sit there and keep trying to buy. Like Ryan Gravenberch is a good player, but I don't want him to be the standard of player that we buy, because then it's going to just gradually lower it because there's a lot more risk involved. I would take Gravenberch as an option to rotate in and out, develop under the manager, develop with the team. But McAllister, the likes of Caicedo, the likes of Nicolo Barella, the likes of Joao Palhinha, those are the players that we need to be looking at and picking up and going, they can have a direct impact on this team right here, right now. And that's what we need to do.
Yeah, you definitely need something. I mean, look, as I said to you off stream, it's, I'd hate to see a lot of your fan base supporting Spurs and having never won anything for the last 15 years. You'd be in mental breakdown. But look, let's move to.
That's actually a good little question. That I mean, I don't know who's going to go down. Like, I think Southampton are dead, and I'd take Romeo Lavia. I think Romeo Lavia is a fantastic DM, but I think he's got his heart set on Chelsea, or he might go back to City or something. I'd love him. I think he's a really, really good young DM.
He's got a buyback clause, hasn't he, with City?
Yeah.
But do they need him? James Ward-Prowse? Madison?
Madison is an intriguing one. I'd much rather have Madison than Mount, but I don't know if Madison fits our style of play. That's the thing.
If I have to take convert anyone, to having a playmaker, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he could do all the intense running. I don't think we've got a position for him which just utilises him. We'd be plugging him in, asking him to do a lot, which he isn't really known for. But another player that we've been linked with, and God forbid we get him, Youri Tielemans. No, I don't want anything to do with Youri Tielemans. Our system is built on pace and power in midfield. Could you imagine us putting in Youri Tielemans in a pace and power midfield? It wouldn't work.
I think it would be jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire with Tielemans. I think technically he's a very good footballer, but does he have that engine and that kind of the legs that you need? I'm not sure. If he's got a couple of people around him doing the running, maybe, but I don't think it'd be for you.
There's one more as well, and this is a little. I've had a little bit of controversy with this one. I'd take that Onana from Everton. I like Onana from Everton. I think he is a really good midfielder. And if they go down, I would love nothing more than to take their best player from the season. It won't happen because Everton will just refuse. They'd sooner sell to you for about 10 quid than give us a player. But if there was an opportunity for him on the market, I'd be all over him because I think there's a proper player there in terms of all three aspects of it.
They still owe us 10 quid for Dele Alli. I'm pretty sure of it. It was shocking. But look, let's look at Leeds then. You've got Leeds United away. Leeds are a funny old team. Sometimes you watch them play and they look brilliant. Can't defend for toffee. But Elland Road is Elland Road, and they hate you. I think you lot hate them. What are we looking at tonight?
What you're looking at tonight is a weird one, because this is a game which in the past 5 years I would have sat there and went, it's Leeds. Go there, get the job done, leave with 3 points. This year I'm going, if they were to beat us, I would not be surprised. Our record against the bottom half teams is genuinely awful. We have the best record against the top 6 in the league. Best record against the top 6 in the league. Put us against the bottom 6. Oh, I think we've lost to Forest. We've lost to Bournemouth. We drew with Everton. We beat Leicester thanks to 2 own goals. We lost to Leeds earlier on the season at Anfield. Our record against them lower down teams is awful. We underestimate them like you wouldn't believe. And that's what worries me about today. They have everything riding on this game. We don't really have a lot to play for because top 4 is gone. They have a lot to play for. Relegation battle at home against the top 6 side who've shown this season they can be got at. Elland Road will be right up for it, and I'm a little believer of these things. Like, teams are due wins. A lot of teams go on runs in seasons where they don't win games, and you sit there and look at them, and they've got you next, and you sit there and go, the due a win, aren't they? The due a win. Look at when.
Yeah.
And when you look at Leeds, it's just like they've formed recently. I'm just double checking. Like,
their last five is lost, drawn, won, lost, won, lost. So a couple of wins, a draw, 3 defeats. What I do notice is there's goals in every game. In every game Leeds are involved in, there's plenty of goals. They scored 4. They scored 2 against Brighton. They scored 4 against Wolves. Only 1 against Arsenal. 2 against Forest. 1 against Palace. Look, this is the thing. Palace just went to them and won 5-1.
Roy, I didn't know he had it in him.
Roy.
I didn't know he had it in him.
So, like, when I watched that game, what I watched was Ayew, Eze, and Elise, just with pace. I'm not saying those players are top draw, amazing. Just with pace, went through Leeds for fun. You've got that. You've got that in Salah. You've got that in Nunes. You've got that. So are you expecting to do the same, or is this going to be a different Leeds that you face tonight?
I think the opportunities that Crystal Palace had will, open up again with us.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can still have that volume of opportunity, but in terms of Crystal Palace, I'm going to put it plainly and simply. Crystal Palace were able to build up properly because they trusted their midfield. If Thiago Alcantara isn't playing today for whatever reason, he's just coming back from a longer injury. Maybe we're just trying to ease him back into minutes. Maybe he starts on the bench or something, who knows. Whatever reason it is, if Thiago Alcantara isn't playing, our team doesn't trust the midfield. They don't trust it. And if they don't trust the midfield, they don't use it for build-up. So you just end up playing long ball. And we don't have a system that is sustainable with long ball.
Yeah.
So there's a real possibility that if we don't get any joy in the first 20, 30 minutes, we revert to long ball straight away. It becomes an end-to-end game. And in end-to-end games this season, we haven't really been the best. I do believe that this 3-2-4-1, if he plays it, honestly, Jürgen, I need not more than for you to play this system that nearly beat Arsenal at the weekend. That was the best I've seen us play all season. That second half against Arsenal, we were all over them, had all the pressure, should have won, but my right winger can't take penalties like another one who's just took one yesterday.
I think it was watching the game with you lot against Arsenal. It was very similar to West Ham, but obviously the West Ham game for them. But obviously you've got more quality than West Ham. What stood out for me was once Alexander-Arnold kind of stepped away from more of his defensive duties, I thought that you saw the best of Alexander-Arnold because he was playing so high up the pitch. He was taking on was it Zinchenko or whoever was over there holding for fun. That for me, I think, like you touched on earlier in the show, that's a dynamic. That's a tactic I think you guys should employ. Get him as far away from your goal, get him as near to theirs as possible.
I think it depends. I believe that he should be staying at right back when we're defending. I do think that he's not a bad defensively. He's not the best defender as a right back, but in a system, he can be an all right one. What it is we've stuck him in so many stupid positions this year. He's one of the best passers in the league, and we've often kept him back as a third centre back this year.
Right.
So he's been put under a lot more pressure. Against Arsenal, he was just given free roam in midfield when we had the ball. When we didn't have the ball, he's back in right back. And in the first half, we were just so... Henderson couldn't do it. He didn't know where he had to be. Didn't know where he had to cover. Canate was getting dragged here, there, and everywhere. But in the second half, don't know what was said at half time, but it clicked. Everyone knew what they had to do when Trent went into midfield. And all of a sudden, we were sustaining attacks. Trent was still doing his job at right back defensively when he had to. He made a couple of decent tackles on Martinelli, I think. One on Zinchenko. So he was doing his job defensively. But like you said, getting him in those positions, he ran the show. He ran the show. It's one of them games where Liverpool fans have said he's got passing like De Bruyne. And it's a bit hard for people to understand that because he's a right back and all he does is cross.
He's got a wonderful pass on him, yeah.
Watching him in that game, just ping all those passes. Any type of pass you wanted, inside the foot, outside the foot, lofted, drilled, he had them all. And he was very unlucky that right at the end, he didn't get the pre-assist when Núñez hit it across for Canate. And it's hit the one place where Canate can't even kick it or head it. That just summed it all up.
I thought that was a winner.
I think Trent, that system, it got the best out of everyone. We need to play that style because it's the closest I saw to classic Liverpool under Klopp.
Yeah,
it's the closest I saw to what we've been.
And Leeds will give up opportunities. They can't defend. They haven't. Listen, even under like Bielsa, when everyone was like, "Oh my God, Bielsa's this amazing coach." No, Bielsa is this coach that's very good with kind of hectic, manic, everyone attack, and it looks great. Mm-hmm. But going that way, they can't defend. So listen, give me just quickly before, because I know you've got a hard stop in 2 minutes. Let me just one question quickly for 30 seconds. Darwin Núñez takes a lot of stick from fans. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of Darwin Núñez. I think he's a bloody nuisance. I think he looks a real handful to play against.
Oh yeah.
And I do think goals will come. Do you expect to see him start tonight?
I hope so, but I wouldn't be shocked if Jota starts and plays for him, which I wouldn't agree with.
Because he's been poor, hasn't he, Jota?
I think he's just due a goal, but his confidence is so low at the minute. Yeah, he's not shooting when he should. He's shooting when he shouldn't. All that sort of thing. The goal that he will score when he breaks his duct, it will be the ugliest goal I think he'll ever score in his Liverpool career. It'll go off his backside off a corner that was cleared into him, and that's the thing that will set him off. But I really like Núñez. I think he's got a lot of unnecessary stick this season because of the fact that we've been bad and he came in and Manny left, so it must be that. Darwin Núñez has been the bright spark of this season. He's been someone that we could hang our hat on and go, I like him.
I think it's such lazy punditry from people to just say, oh, Mane's gone, Núñez has come in, that's why Liverpool are the way they are. A team doesn't collapse on one player unless we're talking like Barcelona Messi type levels, you know, that you don't collapse on one player. But look, I like him. I think he's a handful. I think he can be erratic, sure. Yeah. But I've seen enough from him that I wouldn't want to play against him if I was a defender because he doesn't stick to a position. He's quite happy to run in behind. He's quite happy to run the channels, and he's quite happy from what I've seen to carry the ball. So look, I like him. I think next year he
doesn't know what he's going to do next. This is the thing about defending him. He doesn't know what he's going to do next, so you stand no chance of knowing it. And the erraticness, it can be a problem. Sometimes doesn't play the right pass. Sometimes makes a bit of a weird run. But considering our attack has been so almost mechanical in the past 3 years because teams knew it was going to be Salah, Mane, Firmino. Firmino will drop in. Mane and Salah will run in behind, etc., etc., etc. Having him, who you don't know what he's going to do. Having Diaz, who gives us something different when he's back, which is today. Having Jota, who is a classic poacher when he's fit and firing. They're the players who we need to sit there and go, use them. Let them do what they need to do, because that will break up the methodicalness, like the methodical nature of it.
I feel that next year, I'll get your prediction in a second, but I feel that next year Klopp's got to decide on, if it is a front three, what's his first choice front three, because I feel that you've almost got too many. And when I watch Liverpool play, the first thing I always look at in your team sheet is which three is it today? Mm-hmm. Whereas when you look at, for example, if you look at City, I know different story, but you look at City, know most of the time, right? You know what his preferred front three is. Mm-hmm. Listen, Tom, I know you got to shoot. Give me a score prediction for tonight.
Oh boy, I'll make it an entertaining game for the neutrals. 4-2 Liverpool.
4-2 Liverpool. 6. Well, there will be goals because Leeds can't defend, so there will be goals. Okay, so 4-2 to Liverpool. I will clip that and shame you tomorrow if it doesn't happen. Are you on the Football Terrace at 5 o'clock?
I am, yes. I am.
Cool. I will see you there. Listen, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. It's always good to get an insight from fans of different clubs. So thanks for that. Take care, everybody. Thanks for all those that tuned in, and we will see you later. Take care.